Most people do not lose their life in one great tragedy. They lose it slowly, one purchase at a time, one distraction at a time, one empty desire at a time. You can own more than ever before and still feel poor inside. You can be admired by many and still feel unseen in your own soul. That is the quiet horror of modern life. You are told that meaning can be bought, that peace is waiting in the next house, the next phone, the next success, the next proof that you matter. But the more you chase, the more life slips through your hands. There comes a moment when a human being must face a brutal question. If all these things were meant to fulfill you, why are you still restless when you finally touch them? Maybe the true meaning of life was never hiding in what you could hold. Maybe it was waiting in what you were finally willing to let go. Look honestly at the way many people live now. They wake up tired. They check their phone before they check their own mind. Before the day even begins, they have already handed their peace to the world. A message can change their mood. A number can change their worth. A stranger's opinion can decide whether they feel strong or ashamed. This is not freedom. It only looks like freedom. A person can choose what to wear, what to buy, where to go, what image to show. But inside, they are led by fear. Fear of being behind. Fear of being ordinary. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of having no value without visible proof. So they run. They run toward money, toward status, toward comfort, toward more, always more. But the more they gain, the more fragile they become, because now they have more to defend, more to compare, more to lose. More reasons to panic. A man buys a better car. For a week, he feels taller. Then he sees a better one. Now the thing that gave him pride becomes the thing that gives him pain. A woman builds a beautiful life online. People praise her. But at night, when the screen goes dark, she feels a silence she cannot escape. Because praise is loud, but it does not stay. It fades fast. Then hunger returns. Many people are not living. They are managing an image. They are feeding a hunger that grows each time it is fed, and little by little, they lose contact with themselves. They do not know what they truly love. They do not know what they truly believe. They do not know what kind of life is enough. They only know what they are supposed to want. That is why so many people feel busy and empty at the same time. They fill every hour, yet feel no depth. They chase every goal, yet feel no peace. They are surrounded by things, yet haunted by lack. This pain is not always dramatic. Often it is quiet. It appears in the small moments, when you sit alone and feel the urge to reach for noise, when you cannot enjoy what you already have, when someone else's success feels like your failure, when rest feels uncomfortable because stopping means meeting yourself. That is the hidden wound. You become dependent on things outside you to tell you who you are. And once that happens, your center is no longer yours. Then life becomes unstable. If money comes, you feel safe. If it goes, you feel exposed. If people admire you, you feel alive. If they ignore you, you feel small. If life is easy, you feel strong. If life is hard, you collapse. We say we want a meaningful life, but often what we really want is a comfortable illusion. We want pain to stay far away. We want pleasure to stay close. We want certainty. We want applause. We want proof that we matter. But life does not obey these wishes. Things break. Beauty fades. Bodies age. Money moves. Attention shifts. People leave. Luck turns. The world does not make promises to your comfort, and yet many build their whole identity on these shifting sands. Then one day, something falls apart. A job is lost. A relationship ends. A dream fails. A body changes. A plan dies. And suddenly they feel something terrifying. Not just grief, not just disappointment, but emptiness. Because the structure holding them up was never solid. It was built from borrowed meaning. This is why material obsession is so dangerous, not because comfort is evil, not because money is always corrupt, but because when you treat outer things as the source of inner worth, you create a life that can be shattered by events. And deep down, most people know this. That is why even in moments of success, there is anxiety. Even in pleasure, there is tension. Even in achievement, there is fear, because the soul knows when it is leaning on what cannot hold it. Maybe you know this feeling. Maybe you have worked hard for something, reached it, and then felt almost nothing. Maybe you thought one more step would finally quiet the noise inside, but the silence never came, because the problem was never the amount. It was the direction. You are looking outward for what can only be built inward. This is the modern sickness, not simply having too much, but needing too much, not simply owning things, but being owned by them. And when that happens, a hard question rises from the dark. What are you living for? That is where the real struggle begins. Not when you have nothing, but when you have enough to stay distracted and still feel empty. If the meaning of life lies beyond material things, then everything built on material things alone is already too small. Here's the truth most people avoid because it cuts too deep. Material things were never meant to carry the weight of your soul. They can serve you. They can support your life. They can make certain tasks easier, but they cannot tell you why you exist. They cannot teach you how to face suffering. They cannot stay beside you when death stands in the room. And yet many people ask material things to do exactly that. They ask money to make them feel secure forever. They ask beauty to make them lovable forever. They ask success to make them important forever. They ask pleasure to make them peaceful forever. But these things were never designed for forever. That is why they always fail you in the end. Your emptiness is not a small mistake in your lifestyle. It is the result of trusting the wrong God. The modern world teaches a silent religion. It uses brands, screens, trends, luxury, comparison, performance. It tells you to build yourself from what others can see. Look successful, look wanted, look powerful, look unbothered, look expensive, look ahead of everyone else. And if you can do that, it says, then your life has value. But this religion has no mercy. Because no matter how much you offer it, it always asks for more. More proof, more upgrades, more attention, more productivity, more sacrifice, more of your mind, more of your time, more of your life. And still, it gives nothing lasting back. This is why some of the richest people are deeply afraid. This is why some of the most admired people are privately broken. This is why some people have everything they once dreamed of and still wake up with dread. Because external success can hide inner poverty. You can decorate a prison. It is still a prison. You can perfume emptiness. It is still emptiness. This is why Stoic wisdom begins with disillusionment. It strips away the lie that your life becomes meaningful when it becomes impressive. Impressive to whom? The crowd? The same crowd that forgets yesterday's hero by tomorrow morning. The same crowd that praises what shines and ignores what is true. The same crowd that claps when you rise and whispers when you fall. If your worth depends on unstable eyes, then your worth will always shake. Another hard truth is this: much of what you chase is not even your desire. It was planted in you. From childhood, people hand you pictures of what a successful life should look like. They teach you what to admire before they teach you what to question. So you spend years climbing toward a life that may not even belong to you. You want the title because it sounds important. You want the money because it looks safe. You want the lifestyle because it earns respect. You want the image because you fear being nobody. But have you ever stopped and asked whether these wants were chosen or inherited? That question makes many people uncomfortable, because if they answer honestly, they may discover they built their entire life around borrowed hunger. And that discovery is painful. Imagine giving your best years to a race you never needed to run. Imagine exhausting your body, your mind, your relationships, just to reach a prize that feels dead in your hands. Imagine becoming everything the world told you to become, and then realizing you have become a stranger to yourself. And here is another truth. The pursuit of material identity does not only distract you from meaning, it weakens your character. It makes you impatient because you always want faster results. It makes you envious because someone always has more. It makes you fearful because your peace depends on conditions staying favorable. It makes you dishonest because when appearances matter too much, truth becomes inconvenient. Little by little, the soul bends. Not in one dramatic collapse, but in small daily compromises. You start pretending. You start performing. You start hiding pain behind polished surfaces. You start measuring human beings by status, reach, income. You stop seeing life clearly. Then people make tragic trades. They trade health for money, silence for noise, depth for speed, integrity for approval, presence for ambition without limit, life itself for symbols of life. And they call this normal, but normal does not mean wise. Common does not mean true. The hard truth is that many people are not afraid of poverty. They are afraid of insignificance. That is why they keep collecting signs of worth, not because they need them to live, but because they need them to hide the fear that without these signs, they may be nothing. This fear drives entire lives. It drives overwork. It drives vanity. It drives false relationships. It drives addiction to praise. It drives quiet despair. And the cruelest part is this. The more you try to escape inner emptiness through outer accumulation, the more dependent you become on the very things that cannot save you. So the chain tightens. You do not own your desires own you. This is why awakening often feels brutal, because it is not just a new idea, it is a collapse of illusion. You begin to see that much of what looked valuable was only loud, much of what looked powerful was only fragile, much of what looked meaningful was only distraction wearing expensive clothes. And now you face a choice. Keep lying to yourself and remain entertained until life strips everything away. Or wake up now. Wake up before loss teaches you what wisdom tried to teach gently. Wake up before your own body tells you that youth was a loan, not a right. Wake up before you stand in a room full of things you once wanted and feel nothing except the cold question of whether you missed your life. If material things cannot give life meaning, then you must stop worshiping them. If praise cannot make you whole, then you must stop begging for it. If success cannot quiet your soul, then you must stop calling it salvation. This is the breaking point. The old belief must die, because until it dies, you will keep decorating your chains and calling them freedom. So what does Stoicism say in the middle of all this? It says something simple, severe, and liberating. Your life becomes stable only when your center rests on what cannot be taken from you by chance. This is the heart of Stoic thought. The Stoics did not hate money. They did not hate comfort. They did not teach people to reject the world and live with empty hands just for show. They taught order. They taught that some things are under your control and some things are not. Your judgment is yours. Your choices are yours. Your actions are yours. Your character is yours. But wealth is not fully yours. Reputation is not fully yours. The body is not fully yours. Other people are not yours. Outcomes are not yours. Time itself is not yours to command. And the moment you confuse these categories, suffering multiplies. If you tie your peace to what is unstable, your peace will be unstable. If you tie your identity to what can be lost, your identity will panic each time life moves. This is why Stoicism begins by pulling the soul back to its proper ground, not to passivity, not to coldness, but to clarity. A Stoic asks, what is truly mine in this moment? Not the economy, not the opinions of strangers, not whether people understand me, not whether the world rewards my effort. What is mine is how I see this, how I answer this, how I carry myself through this. That shift changes everything. Imagine two people who lose their job. The first one says, "My life is ruined. I am nothing without this. Now everyone will see I have failed." The second one says, "This is painful. This changes many things, but my judgment, my discipline, my honesty, my courage are still available to me. I have lost a position. I have not lost myself. Both feel pain, but only one collapses completely. Why? Because one built identity on circumstance. The other built identity on character. This is Stoicism in practice. It does not promise a painless life. It teaches an unshakable inner structure. Or think of someone growing older. One person fights reality with bitterness. They feel insulted by time. They mourn every line on the face, every change in the body, every lost form of attention. They do not merely age. They resist aging every day, and that resistance becomes suffering. Another person says, "This body was always passing. Youth was beautiful, but it was never permanent. My task is not to stop time. My task is to use time well while it is here." That person still sees loss, but they are not humiliated by reality. They are aligned with it. This is what acceptance means in Stoicism, not weakness, not surrender in the lazy sense, not saying everything is fine when it is not. Acceptance means seeing clearly what is already true so that energy is no longer wasted fighting facts. A storm comes. The Stoic does not scream at the sky. He secures what he can. He endures what he must. He keeps his mind from becoming more violent than the storm itself. That is wisdom. Control what can be shaped, accept what must be borne, and know the difference with brutal honesty. This sounds simple, but it cuts against the habits of the modern mind. The modern mind wants control over everything, over timing, over results, over other people's feelings, over how life unfolds. When it cannot control these things, it becomes angry, anxious, bitter, desperate. Stoicism says that anger comes from illusion. You are suffering not only because life is hard, you are suffering because you expected life to obey you. The Stoics also teach that the good life is not the pleasant life. It is the virtuous life. That word can sound old, but the meaning is alive. Virtue means living with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-command. It means being honest when lying would be easier, steady when panic would be easier, disciplined when indulgence would be easier, fair when selfishness would be easier. This is where meaning begins, not in what you display, but in what you become. A person who loses wealth and keeps dignity is still rich in the deepest sense. A person who gains the world and loses self-command is poor, no matter what he owns. Marcus Aurelius wrote while ruling an empire, yet he kept reminding himself that fame is smoke, luxury is distraction, and death makes equals of all. He did not say this because he was against responsibility. He said it because power without inner discipline destroys the one who holds it. Epictetus had once been a slave. He understood in the rawest way that outer chains and inner chains are not the same. A man can be poor and inwardly free. A man can be powerful and inwardly enslaved. This is why Stoicism speaks with such force across time. It addresses the one prison every age builds in a different shape, the prison of dependence. dependence on comfort, dependence on praise, dependence on certainty, dependence on the world behaving the way we want. The Stoic breaks that prison from the inside. He says, I will enjoy what comes without kneeling before it. I will work for what is good without worshiping the result. I will love people without pretending they belong to me forever. I will meet loss without calling it injustice every time life changes form. This is not a small teaching. It is a complete reversal of values. The world says, possess more, and you will mean more. Stoicism says, need less, and you will see more. The world says, protect your image. Stoicism says, purify your character. The world says, avoid pain at all cost. Stoicism says, use pain well, and let it reveal where you are still weak. That is why the true meaning of life lies beyond material things, because meaning is not an object. It is a way of being. It is found in right seeing, right choosing, right enduring, right valuing. And once you understand that, you stop asking the world to make your soul whole. You begin the harder and cleaner work of shaping the soul yourself. Now the question becomes practical. If the true meaning of life lies beyond material things, how do you train yourself to live that way? How do you stop being ruled by appetite, fear, and comparison? How do you build a mind that does not fall apart each time the world changes? You build it through daily discipline, not dramatic gestures, not beautiful speeches, not a weekend of motivation. Daily discipline. Inner strength is not found. It is forged. The first step is to create moments of silence. Real silence. Not silence with a screen in your hand. Not silence while your mind races through borrowed voices. Silence where you meet yourself without entertainment. Most people avoid this because silence exposes the truth. It shows what your mind depends on. It shows how restless you are. It shows how quickly you reach for comfort when nothing is distracting you. That is exactly why you need it. Sit for a few minutes each day with no device, no music, no escape. Let the mind reveal its habits. Watch the cravings arise. Watch the need for noise. Do not obey at once. Observe. A person who cannot sit still for 10 minutes should not trust his own sense of freedom. The second step is to question desire before serving it. Each time you strongly want something, pause and ask, what do I believe this will give me? Not what will it give my body? Not what will it give my image? What do I believe it will give my soul? Security, respect, belonging, relief, importance. Now ask the harder question. Can this thing truly give that in a lasting way? Often the answer is no. Many desires are not about the object. They are about the story attached to the object. You do not want the watch. You want the feeling of significance. You do not want the applause. You want relief from self-doubt. You do not want endless comfort. You want escape from inner instability. Once the story is exposed, the spell weakens. The third step is voluntary discomfort. Do small, hard things on purpose. Walk when you could ride. Eat simply when you could indulge. Sit with hunger for a little while before the meal. Take a cold shower sometimes. Wear something plain without needing attention. Spend a day without buying anything. Do not obey every urge the moment it appears. Why does this matter? Because luxury teaches dependence when taken without awareness. The more you need ideal conditions to feel normal, the weaker you become. Voluntary discomfort reminds you that you can endure more than you think. It breaks the fear of having less. It teaches the body and mind that comfort is a gift, not a requirement. And once you know you can survive simplicity, the world loses some of its power to threaten you. The fourth step is disciplined speech. A strong person does not rush to explain himself to everyone. He does not chase the final word in every conflict. He does not speak to decorate his image. He speaks to say what is true, necessary, and measured. So begin watching your own speech. How often do you complain about what cannot be changed? How often do you exaggerate to appear larger? How often do you speak from wounded pride? How often do you use words to avoid facing yourself? Restraint in speech creates strength in thought. The fifth step is to train your judgments. Events do not break you first. Your interpretation of events does. A delay happens. You call it disrespect. A failure happens. You call it proof that you are useless. A rejection happens. You call it evidence that you are unworthy. A loss happens. You call it the end of meaning. Look carefully. The pain is real, but the judgment adds a second wound. So when something hard happens, slow the mind down. Name the fact first. Only the fact. This project failed. This person left. This money is gone. This body is tired. This plan changed. Then ask, what story am I adding? What insult am I inventing? What fear am I feeding? The discipline is not to deny pain. It is to keep pain clean, to suffer what is real without multiplying it through fantasy. The sixth step is to keep death close. Not in a morbid way, in a clarifying way. The Stoics remember death because death cuts through false values. When you remember that life is finite, many useless desires lose their glamour. The argument loses its thrill. The status symbol looks smaller. The ego performance looks tired. The need to impress weakens. And better questions appear. If my time is limited, what deserves my devotion? If I will not be here forever, what kind of person should I be now? What must I stop chasing before it steals another year? Death is not only an ending, it is a mirror. It shows you whether you are spending life or merely consuming it. The seventh step is service. When you stop making yourself the center of every desire, you begin to ask how you can be useful. Useful to your family, useful to your work, useful in quiet ways that bring no applause. Service gives weight to life because it pulls you out of vanity. It reminds you that meaning grows through contribution, not display. And finally, practice gratitude without softness, not shallow gratitude, not pretending every painful thing is pleasant. Real gratitude, gratitude for enough food, enough breath, enough time for one more honest day, enough awareness to see your own errors before life punishes them more harshly, enough strength to begin again. This kind of gratitude does not make you weak. It makes you harder to manipulate, because a person who knows what is already enough cannot be controlled so easily by promises of more. This is how inner strength is built. In silence, in self-observation, in smaller desires, in chosen hardship, in cleaner judgment, in measured speech, in memory of death, in useful action, in gratitude for what is real. None of this is glamorous. That is why so few do it. But this is the work that rebuilds a human being from the inside. This is how you stop living like a hungry shadow, chasing symbols. This is how you become a person who can stand with empty hands and still remain full in spirit. And once that strength begins to grow, something changes. You no longer beg life to be easy. You ask yourself to be stronger. There comes a point when excuses must end. Not tomorrow, not when life becomes easier, not when the money is better, not when people finally understand you. Now, because the truth is already here. You are dying. So am I. Everyone you love is moving toward the same silence. And yet people still waste their days polishing masks, feeding vanity, chasing proof, hoarding things they cannot keep. What a tragedy, to be given one life and spend it trying to look alive, to be given a soul and let it starve while the body is entertained, to stand in the middle of a brief and fragile existence and call shopping, status, and applause a purpose. No, that is not a life. That is sedation. The world will tempt you every day. It will say, just a little more, one more upgrade, one more reward, one more image to protect, one more reason to postpone the deeper work. And if you listen long enough, you will wake up old, full of objects, empty of substance. That is how people disappear before they die. They lose the sharpness of conscience. They lose the courage to face themselves. They lose the ability to feel wonder without possession. They lose the strength to stand alone. Then they call this maturity. They call this success. They call this the real world. But the real world is much harsher than that. The real world does not care what you owned. It reveals what you were. When pain comes, it reveals what you were. When loss comes, it reveals what you were. When death approaches, it reveals what you were. Not your brand, not your followers, not your title, not your decorated image. You, your mind, your habits, your values, your courage, your fear, your truth. So stop lying to yourself. If you are weak, admit it. If you are dependent, admit it. If comfort has made you soft, admit it. If praise controls you, admit it. If you have been building your life on things that rot, break, leave, or fade, admit it. This admission is not defeat. It is the first act of power, because from that moment, you can change. You can refuse to live like a beggar in a market of illusions. You can refuse to let desire drag you by the throat. You can refuse to hand your peace to strangers, trends, and numbers. You can refuse to call distraction a life. Stand up inwardly. Cut away what weakens you. Reduce what enslaves you. Question what seduces you. Leave what corrupts you. End what hollows you out. Do not wait for disaster to purify your values. Do it while you still have time. Do it while your heart can still hear the call. Do it while there is still breath in your lungs and choice in your hands. A strong life is not built by adding everything. It is built by removing what is false. Strip the image. Strip the vanity. Strip the hunger to impress. Strip the fear of being ordinary. Strip the addiction to more. Then stand there, bare, quiet, honest, and ask yourself one final question. If everything material were taken from me, what would remain? If the answer is almost nothing, then your work is clear. Build what cannot be taken. Build a mind that does not kneel. Build a character that does not rot in comfort. Build a spirit that can walk through loss without becoming small. Build a life that means something even in an empty room. This is the awakening, not soft, not pleasant, but clean. And once you see it, you cannot go back, because now you know. The true meaning of life was never waiting in the things you could collect. It was waiting in the person you had the courage to become. So where does this leave you? Not in despair, not in rejection of the world, not in hatred of beauty, comfort, or success. It leaves you with order. Use material things. Do not lean on them for meaning. Enjoy them. Do not worship them. Work for them when they are useful. Do not build your soul on them. There is a quieter way to live. You wake up and remember that your mind is your first responsibility. You move through the day with more awareness. You speak less but with more truth. You want less but value more. You stop asking life to prove that you matter. You begin proving it through the way you live. Then even ordinary days gain depth. A simple meal becomes enough. A calm breath becomes enough. An honest conversation becomes enough. Useful work becomes enough. A clear conscience at night becomes enough. And in that enough, something rare appears. Peace. Not the weak peace of comfort, not the fragile peace of getting everything you want, but the deeper peace of no longer needing the world to complete you. This is why the meaning of life lies beyond material things, because meaning lives in the unseen part of you, in the way you endure loss, in the way you carry power, in the way you meet time, in the way you treat others when no reward is coming, in the way you stand when life removes your ornaments. One day, all outer things will fall away. The body will weaken. The house will belong to someone else. The money will move to other hands. The name will fade from living memory. But the life you shaped within yourself will not have been wasted. The discipline will have mattered. The courage will have mattered. The love without possession will have mattered. The truth you live by will have mattered. And even if no crowd remembers you, your life can still be complete. Even if no monument carries your name, your soul can still leave this world undefeated. That is the freedom material things can never buy. So walk forward differently. Let others chase what glitters. Let others measure themselves by price, image, and applause. You have seen where that road ends. Choose depth. Choose self-command. Choose clarity. Choose the kind of life that can face death without begging for one more distraction. And when the world asks what you have gained, you may answer in silence, I gained myself, and that was more than enough.